What's going on, guys? There are many retired and active professional athletes who find plenty of success in films and television. This obviously includes Terry Bradshaw, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Howie Long, and Jim Brown. But there are some athletes who made the brutal mistake of taking on the role that just wasn't suited for them. Some of them even starred in such films, while others made some cameo appearances that really didn't go so well. So let's get right into it and take a look at the 8 worst athlete acting performances of all time. Make sure to subscribe to TPS. Put on your notifications too, because we post videos all the time. New videos all the time, subscribe. Number 8, Dan Marino in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Comedy film icon Jim Carrey starred as Ace Ventura in a pair of 90s blockbuster films. They were Pet Detective and When Nature Calls. They were released in 1994 and 95. Pet Detective centers around Carrey's character, animal detective Ace Ventura, who is trying to locate the Miami Dolphins mascot Snowflake, a real-life dolphin. The organization is desperate to get Snowflake back before they play in the Super Bowl. Dolphins quarterback and Pro Football Hall of Famer Dan Marino is one of the main characters in the film. Ventura realizes that both Marino and Snowflake were kidnapped by the film's main villain, Ray Finkel.
Come here. Ladies and gentlemen, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Marino, has just brought some new evidence to my attention.
Spoiler alert, Ventura winds up saving Marino and Snowflake, who returned for the Dolphins Super Bowl contest against the Eagles. It was one of the few TV film appearances made by the Dolphins legend. It's a little too corny for my liking though, but he's not an actor. Carrey completely stole the show as the main character. And you know, it just wasn't necessary to have Marino there. I mean, it was kind of cool, but you know, it just wasn't necessary. He didn't have that many lines though, so that's fine. Number 7, Brett Favre in There's Something About Mary. This beloved 1998 comedy film starred America's sweetheart Cameron Diaz and Hollywood favorites Matt Dillon and Ben Stiller. The film centers around Stiller's character, Ted, trying to reunite with his high school love, Mary Jensen, played by Cameron Diaz. Near the end of the film, Ted, along with Mary's other lovers, are all in the room together. Ted does the right thing and brings back Mary's past lover, none other than Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre. Ted tries reuniting Favre and Mary, believing that he's the man that deserves her most. Favre professes his love for her, and Ted walks out, believing he made the difficult right decision in bringing them back together.
Oh! Touchdown!
Hi, Mary.
Brett?
What the hell is Brett Favre doing here?
It's funny, don't get me wrong, I died the first time I saw it, but it's also terrible at the same time. At the end of the film, Mary comes out and tells Ted she'd be happiest with him. Before they rekindle their romance, Ted delivers this epic and memorable line, perhaps the most memorable line in the entire film.
But I'd be happiest with you.
What about Brett Favre?
I mean, Favre definitely would have been better in The Longest Yard, but I mean, I laughed. I thought it was funny. Number 6, Tom Brady in Ted 2. Now, his acting wasn't great here, but it was still, you know, it was a cameo. I mean, yeah, NFL quarterbacks don't have great track records when it comes to acting. Tom Brady has made a handful of memorable cameos, including in Entourage and Family Guy. No complaints about those two, but his performance in the Mark Wahlberg film Ted 2 was, it was alright. Trying to avoid giving out too much information, basically Ted and Wahlberg's character John try sneaking in on Brady while he's sleeping. John even makes a Deflategate joke at Brady at one point in the film.
And you're not a cheater. I mean, I think your balls are perfect.
Throw him back.
I'm pretty sure they filmed that after the day they filmed with Brady, so like they totally did a fast one on him, whatever. But of course, Brady and Wahlberg are good pals in real life, and the latter is a huge Patriots fan. So it's no surprise that Wahlberg recruited his close friend to be in the movie. I also think the movie would have been fine without him, but I'm not gonna lie, that moment when they lift up the blanket and then the gold light shines on them.
Sweet God and baby Jesus.
That's priceless. I'm sorry. Also, that perfect spiral line.
Holy shit, perfect spiral!
A+. Number 5, Dennis Rodman in Doubleteam. Dennis Rodman has always had one of the biggest athlete personalities, so it's no surprise that he earned the starring gig for a Hollywood film. Rodman, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and Mickey Rourke starred together in the 1997 action comedy Doubleteam. Rodman portrayed Yaz, a weapons dealer who helps Van Damme's character, an agent who's trying to rescue his kidnapped pregnant wife.
Got you!
You open up?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I look at you, I see nothing but trouble. What the hell? I kind of like trouble.
If that doesn't look bad enough for you, Rodman makes a cheesy joke where he says, "Defense wins games." Get it? Because he's a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, as well as 7-time rebounding champion, and won 5 NBA championship rings throughout his career. Good joke. The film made just over $11.438 million at the box office. They were against an estimated $30 million budget. So yeah, it was a complete flop and a waste of time. Rodman won 3 Razzie Awards: Worst New Star, Worst Supporting Actor, and Worst Screen Couple along Van Damme. It's pretty bad. Thing is, that didn't stop Rodman from continuing an acting career that's still going. Number 4, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in Tooth Fairy. Now usually, we smell what The Rock is cooking. Dwayne Johnson played football for the Miami Hurricane and embarked on a brief career in the CFL before joining the WWE, where he became one of the most electrifying and accomplished superstars in the company's history. It's no surprise that The Rock was able to have an excellent transition from the WWE ring to the bright lights of Hollywood. The WWE is practically acting and athleticism meshed into one, a male soap opera if you will, and his microphone skills were out of this world. No other wrestler was able to bring the crowd to their feet with improvised promos like the People's Champion. Now The Rock has been part of countless Hollywood blockbuster films, including The Scorpion King, Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, and the other guys. And of course the Fast and the Furious franchise and like 1,000 other films that are all blockbusters, big explosions, and just unrealistic survival skills. But you get it. But practically every major actor and actress has had a handful of forgettable gigs, and The Rock is no exception. His worst film by far was the fantasy comedy film Tooth Fairy, released in 2010. The movie also stars Ashley Judd and Julie Andrews. It centers around Rock's character Derek Thompson, a hockey player known as Tooth Fairy because of his reputation for knocking out the teeth of other players. Thompson later turns into the Tooth Fairy and learns to become a more selfless person over time. How sweet. At the end of the film, spoiler alert, he winds up playing for the Los Angeles Kings NHL team. The film made a reported $112 million at the box office, but it was heavily panned by critics. Worse yet, a sequel was released in 2012, starring Larry the Cable Guy. With all due respect to The Rock, this was not his best acting performance, but he was also getting his start in the industry and he wasn't that famous yet, I get it. Though the gimmick and storyline itself warrants more of the blame than Johnson's acting. Number 3, O.J. Simpson, the Naked Gun trilogy. Simpson was one of the NFL's most dominant players during his playing days with the Buffalo Bills. He led the league in rushing yards 4 times. He earned 5 Pro Bowl selections and won the 1973 NFL MVP award. And he did it. Simpson was later enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. After his playing career and before the infamous murder trial, Simpson began a career in the film industry. Simpson had done occasional acting while he was still playing, but he's perhaps best remembered for his role in the Naked Gun trilogy starring Leslie Nielsen and Priscilla Presley. Simpson was one of the primary characters in the Naked Gun trilogy, portraying Detective Nordberg, one of the main allies of Nielsen's character. Now the films were downright hilarious, and they turned Nielsen into one of Hollywood's favorite comedy actors. Simpson's character was funny too, but also incredibly over the top.
Everyone should have a friend like you.
Nordberg! Who comes back here? Frank!
Simpson, by the way, won the 1995 Razzie Award for Worst Supporting Actor in Naked Gun 33 1/3, The Final Insult. Even if Simpson's character provided you some laughs, you can't deny he wasn't exactly a reason for the trilogy's success. Simpson had one more acting role as John Burke in Frogman before he went to trial and was eventually acquitted of the murders of ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman. He had a couple more short acting gigs long after the trial, but the Naked Gun and Frogman essentially marked his final days as a big actor. Number 2, Hulk Hogan and Mr. Nanny. He may be the biggest name in the history of professional wrestling, but Hulk Hogan won't ever be able to brag about a smooth transition from the ring to Hollywood, at least like The Rock or Dave Bautista had. While The Rock and the Animal have been part of countless Hollywood hits, the vast majority of Hogan's movies were downright terrible. None of them, however, were as embarrassing as the 1993 film Mr. Nanny. Hogan plays the main character, Sean Armstrong. It's fitting because he has big arms and he's a strong person. Get it? Hollywood brilliance. Love it. Armstrong is a former wrestler who's hired as a nanny and protector of 2 children, whose dad is being observed by a bunch of dangerous criminals.
Where do you think you're going?
I'm looking for Mr. Mason.
Is that so? Get off the bike.
What for?
Just do it, butthead!
Should have done that.
Your typical cheesy 90s film that starred a pro athlete. This was panned by every critic. It got a 3.7 rating on IMDb and a woeful 7% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The film also made only around $4.3 million at the box office. Now that's a bad movie, brother. Yeah, I'm not doing the Hulk Hogan voice. I suck at that, sorry. Number 1, Shaquille O'Neal in Kazam. The The 4-time NBA champion and Basketball Hall of Famer has played himself in numerous films and television shows, including Scary Movie 4, personal favorite, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and even the WWE. Some of these were downright hilarious and well executed. But the same cannot be said about the 1996 film Kazam, which starred Shaq himself. O'Neal portrays a genie named Kazam, who arrives to grant 3 wishes for a young boy. Okay, there is one cool part about this film. Shaq's character raps while putting together rather creative rhymes.
Who dare to wake me? Ain't gonna make this a mystery. Don't wanna do time on your wishes 3.
But there's just way too much campy stuff, such as when he turns the main villain, Malik, into a ball shape before slam dunking him. This film, as you would guess, was met with extremely negative reviews. The film got a woeful 2.9 out of 10 rating on IMDb, and late legendary film critic Roger Ebert gave it a 1.5 stars. The film made $18.9 million at the box office. 16 years after the movie was released, O'Neal sat down with GQ to open up about the film. Shaq called himself a medium-level juvenile delinquent who dreamed about doing a movie. Shaq said he wasn't going to turn down a $7 million offer to do a $7 million film. I mean, you can't blame the guy. It's just too bad Kazam wasn't able to take off like Michael Jordan's Space Jam blockbuster film, because that is a cult classic. I mean, so is Kazam in a way, but like, I'm sure there were some NBA fans or just people in general who enjoyed it, but like, it was just not a good movie. Just saying. What other terrible athlete acting performances should we have included on our list? Join me in the comment section below. You could also tweet me. Tweet me your favorite sport acting performance of all time. So obviously it could be anyone. It could be a regular actor, it could be an athlete, it could be anyone, but your favorite sports acting performance. Maybe The Sandlot, Space Jam, Field of Dreams, anything. Go tweet me. Also follow myself and TPS on the rest of our social medias. We post great content all the time. I make TikToks. We post memes on TPS. And you know, YouTube, Instagram, you know, it's all there. Just go find us. Make sure to like this video if you liked it. It takes one click right down there. It really helps us out. Make sure to subscribe to TPS. We post videos all the time. New videos all the time. Of course, thank you so much for watching. I'm Jason Biondo. Kazam.
My knees.